Hello everyone, my name is David and I'm known on the internet as Unity Freedom. So today is the last topic of the year that I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to talk about the higher self because I talked about it I mentioned it in many of my talks. So I figured that maybe I should dedicate one podcast to explain what the higher self is and also what's the importance of connecting with your higher self. So without further ado, I will come back after this short introduction. Welcome back. So in many other of the podcasts that I talked about the higher self. And I think some people already have an idea of what a higher self is. And personally, I came from an Ascended Master teaching, so another word for the higher self is the I am presence. But some of the teachings talked about the Christ, the Buddha, the Tao, and the Atman. But all of it is just a description of your higher self. So, what is the higher self? And why is it important that we connect to it? Because initially we're a connected being. We're connected to our higher self. And when we were traumatized, we disconnected from our higher self, and then we created the ego in replacement of it. And ever since then, we function, every actions that we do are based on our ego and our separate selves. The separate selves are cells in pairs that basically provide the actions or the reactions for every trigger that you experience in life. So that's the basis of the ego. The ego always seeks an outcome, a goal, whereas the higher self seeks experience. So this is two distinct differences between the ego, the human ego, and the higher self. The higher self, how the higher self learns about God's free will is through experience. So it puts itself in a certain experience, and then from that experience, it can resolve a certain enigma of free will. Now, before I go further, what is free will? You would think that it's really easy to understand the meaning of free will because God gave us free will to do whatever we wish. Of course, there are certain consequences for every action we take, but that's the essence of free will. The essence of free will means God gave us free will. Free means it's free. Like there are no restrictions. Now, of course, as a new spiritual being, you might think that there are some restrictions, as I will mention later in one of my stories. that I experienced that would probably be best to give you an illustration of how the high self resolved the enigma of one of the aspects of free will. So what happens when we come here is that Earth is very different from other planets. So other planets are natural planets, and on a natural planet, because many of us come from many natural planets, and then we come to an unnatural planet because we want to learn the aspects, certain aspects of free will on an unnatural planet, so that we have the contrast between free will on a natural planet and free will on an unnatural planet like Earth. Of course, natural planet is natural. It's a planet that follows mainly God's will and God's laws. Whereas on an unnatural planet, you can violate God's laws, or you can not follow God's laws. That's your freedom to do. That's your will to do. God gave you that. But of course, God wants you to experience the consequences of not following His rules, of not following His laws. And that's why on Earth, there are many aspects of the lessons on free will that you cannot learn from a natural planet. So many of us, like myself, we volunteered to come to this planet. Now, in my case, I was one of the 10,000, or one of the 144,000 spiritual beings that came to Earth under Senyk. I was here to provide my services as one of the rescue. I'm here to provide and balance Earth as part of the rescue mission, because Earth was going really bad. It was almost beyond repair. At least that's what I remember it. But I came here, I volunteered here to help Earth, to balance Earth so it doesn't go down the tubes. And it can experience the transition towards an upward path instead of the downward path. And the good news is Earth is now on an upward path. But still, many of us who came here, not necessarily for the rescue mission, but also some of us who came here for other reasons, namely to learn and resolve the enigma of free will on an unnatural planet. Now, you may resolve the enigma of free will on a natural planet, but then when you come up here to planet Earth, you start out new. Because planet Earth is different from a natural planet where you came. And so I certainly don't remember. I have a sense of experience of what it feels like on a natural planet. And this is what Earth should follow, the people on Earth should follow. And that's usually what happens to me when I see someone who is struggling. I see that they are holding on to a certain mindset. It's not a natural mindset. It's causing them to suffer. And when I try to help them, I was trying to impose a natural mindset that I know works, that will allow the person to have that sense of abundance. But of course, on planet Earth, it works differently. So if some of you have that sense of feeling that you want to help, you want to rescue, you want to assist, more than likely that you came here for that reason. But all of us who came here have the common denominator for all of us who came here is that we have not fully resolved the enigma of free will. Meaning that if you see everything on Earth It looks chaotic, right? Very, very violent, unstable, turbulent, a lot of violence. It's just not what we, at least in our heart, feels like that should happen. That shouldn't happen. War shouldn't happen. Famine shouldn't happen. You know, an innocent person, a kind person shouldn't die from cancer. That shouldn't happen. Or an innocent person shouldn't got into a car crash and now fully bound on a wheelchair. That shouldn't happen. So we have this mindset that certain things should happen and certain things shouldn't happen. The reason is because we have not resolved the enigma of free will. Meaning that these things can happen because we're here to find out that God's free will is really free. You are free to push your boundaries beyond the laws of God. The furthest away you can push the boundaries that is allowed on earth. So why does God give you this ability to push the boundaries? Because God wants you to know that His laws of free will, there are no restrictions. There are no ambiguity. If you're not growing, it's not because the universe is forcing you not to grow. If you're slacking off, it's not the universe is causing you trouble. Or you're just so unlucky. You were born this way, you were raised this way, and so forth. You're just so unlucky. The universe must be just, maybe God hates me. No, God doesn't hate you. The universe doesn't hate you. God and the universe loves you because God and the universe wants you to figure out that the reason why you're in this situation is because you chose that situation. It was your free will to choose. Now, I've spoken to many spiritual people in my lifetime about this, and as you guessed it, many of them felt really offended by this statement that God gave you free will, that your condition, your situation is caused by you. Not some outside condition that was imposed on you, but it's actually caused by you. Because what is it caused by you? Your inner conditions. Your inner conditions is the cause and the source of your outer conditions. Your outer conditions is basically a reflection of your inner conditions. And your inner conditions are caused by the choices you make. And you make those choices, you're making free will choices. God didn't stop you from making those choices. God gave you the right to make those choices because God wants you to experience the consequences of those choices. So when God gave you those choices, the free choices you can make, you can also undo those choices you made in the past. And that's why you come to earth. You want to learn these lessons. You want to have these experiences. Now, what does that have to do with your higher self and yourself? Now, as you were trying to figure out yourself, this enigma of free will, you just go around, you try to resolve your own psychology, and then realizing, oh, okay, it was my choice after all. It was my choice that got me into this situation. And then you learn this all by yourself. But it is you that's learning the free will aspect of your situation. while your higher self is also learning. It's also learning from other higher selves and also learning from the ascended masters, or you can call it the guides, higher spiritual guides. Not unless your higher self is not sitting in a coma somewhere, not doing anything while you're doing something. It is also learning as well. Now, this learning itself has limitations because it cannot learn the really important parts of free will that it can learn through you. So you think about it, your higher self is your true self, and you are the representation of your higher self, or the extension of your higher self. So in a way, both you and your higher selves are one, but it's separated through the illusion of duality, so that you think that you're separate from the higher self, but the higher self is always in you, never neglected you. It's just waiting for you to, after you experience everything on earth through the ego, and then you decide, no, I'm done with experiencing life through my ego. I want to experience life through my higher self. And that's when you reunite with your higher self, you then will begin to be the open door for your higher self and for the ascended masters, which is the higher spiritual guides. So when you connect with your higher self, then you can actually connect with your causal body, and you can retrieve all the experiences, the good experience that you had previously, maybe in the natural planet that you were living in, and you have resolved the enigma of free will there. Then you can again tap into the experiences of how you could resolve the enigma of free will on the natural planet and apply it on an unnatural planet. So you can actually learn lessons much more quickly. That's one of the advantages of reconnecting with your higher self. It's not like the higher self has a lot of wisdom, but this wisdom was accumulated from lifetimes of reincarnation and re-embodiment on natural planets and also on Earth. So you have all these experiences that's stored in the library you can tap into when you reconnect with your higher self. Now, another aspect or advantages of connecting with your higher self I found is the ability to tap into the Akashic records. So the Akashic records contain records of your traumas, your previous bad experiences on planet Earth. Now, you may have been able to resolve the karma up to a certain point, but the memory is still there. In order for you to let go of the memories forever, you need to have access to the Akashic records. And of course, when you have access to the Akashic records, you will then relive the experiences either through your dreams, out-of-body experiences. In my case, it's often through dreams that I actually go into the specific situation, and it was hard for me to sleep. Sometimes I was gasping for air. It's traumatic, of course, because you're living through the experience yourself. But you're always guided by either your I Am Presence, your higher self, or you're guided by an ascended master or higher spiritual guides. So you're never alone to help you resolve this. And then what I do often is I look at the situation I see it as being unreal because it doesn't apply me to the now. And then I send, at least for me, I send a beam of pink laser beam light onto the situation, and then I consume it. It's like you erase the memory from the Akashic records. And once you erase it, you will have no memory of it. It's like a computer. You erase the program, there will be zero memory of it. So that's one of the other advantages of reconnecting with your higher self, because you cannot do it through the ego. The ego does not have access to the Akashic records. Only your higher self has access to the Akashic records. So you need to have the willingness to reconnect with your higher self. And in the next 11 years, which is starting from 2025 to the end of 2036, December 31st, you have that chance to allow the Christ child to be born in you. And that is the purpose. In order for the society, our society, to move forward into the golden age, the beginning of the golden age, we must allow the Christ child to be born in us, allow us to heal, and allow us to begin our co-creative efforts to bring in that new community, the new society that is based on community, not based on individualism anymore like we see today, but based on community, that we're all helping each other. So, after all this talk, what is the aspects of this enigma of free will that we need to resolve? The aspect is this: have you actually internalized the enigma of free will, that God's free will is truly free? Now, intellectually, we can intellectualize, yeah, God's free will is free. But internalizing it means that you have to live through every aspect of what God defines as free will. So let's say, as I often do, I'll tell you a story about me coaching people. In the past, I've coached a lot of people, and I started coaching when I just decided to coach people because I felt I needed to teach people. Like in my heart, I felt like it's my divine plan to help people, teach people what I know, share my insights of what I know. So at a very young age, I started coaching people. I started coaching people how to fix electronics. And then later on, when I started sports, I started coaching people to run and to swim, to cycle, and so to snowshoe. So it's basically mainly performance-based, based on a spiritual concept that I developed, and helping these people to perform better or more than they could be. So one day, because one of my students, running student, said that she wanted to run faster in a half marathon. And she wanted to run faster in a half marathon for many, many years, but her previous coach couldn't get her to run any faster. And for me, I saw the underlying issue of why she couldn't run faster. Well, one of the things is that her coach didn't have any experience running half marathons. So what she did was, the coach was an athletic coach but have no running experience. So she was taking a concept of running and extrapolating training methods and training principles of that extrapolation. So she created mental images of how you can run faster without the experience backing it up, so to speak. And she was paying this coach quite a lot of money. So she was frustrated, and she knows that I could coach people and help people run faster. So she asked me if I could be her coach. And I said, sure. And first things I noticed when she was running is that she was running at a certain speed. And I said, why are you running this speed? You can run faster. And then she kept repeating the same thing, like, oh, my previous coach told me to do this, told me to do that. And I'm repeating what my previous coach said. And I said to her, but I'm your new coach. I'm helping you. I'm telling you that the way you run, you're not going to run fast. Well, nothing will change. If you keep running the same way you do, you will not run faster in a competition. You will run the same way as you did time over time again because you're doing the same thing. Of course, then finally she decided to follow my advice, and I coached her to run faster. I gave her time training tables to help her achieve a certain speed. This is all based on my experience because I tried it on myself and on other students, and I realized it worked on other students, so it should work on her. And of course, she was complaining because running faster means you have to try harder. You have to huff and puff a lot more. And she didn't like that. She said, this is not right. I say, my previous coach never said I should do this. This is wrong. She kept always arguing with me. And of course, I sensed that, okay, maybe I'll just not push her so hard. And later on, even asking her not to push her so hard, she still complained that it was hard training. Because running faster, well, if you want to run faster, you got to run faster. You can't say, I want to run faster and not run faster. But she was complaining that running faster was too hard on her. But anyhow, she was complaining so much that she decided, no, David, I don't want you to be my coach. I just return to my old coach. And so I said, okay, fine, great. And then I never seen her again. Until a few months later, she sent me an email. And I look at the title, it was kind of ambiguous, but at least I thought, maybe she was sending this email to me because maybe she wants a refund. Because maybe she ran a marathon, decided that my training didn't help her. But as I opened the email, I was surprised. Surprised to see that the first paragraph was an apology to me. She apologized for her unprofessional attitude towards me. She was remorseful to blame me for basically for calling me a fake coach, or you don't know what you're doing, David. You're a fake coach because I don't believe that you can help me run faster. And she was actually apologizing for that comment. And she said that she ran the half marathon 15 minutes faster than her old record. Of all the years she tried to run faster, she made it. She ran 15 minutes faster, beyond her dreams, beyond her expectation. But was I surprised? No. I knew she could do 15. Or if she believed in my training, she could do 30 minutes faster. But because she dropped off halfway, She could only do 15. It was kind of what I expected her to do after she dropped out. She did went back to her coach. And her previous coach taught her to run slower. But what really interested me was that during the mid-run, she chose to run faster. She vowed never to use my training. She even said to me, I vowed never to use your training method to run faster. But guess what? Because she was conditioned already to run faster due to my training methodology, she already could run faster. Her body has already adapted to running faster. So she ran faster. And then she made it. So what is this story about? It's really about free will. If she didn't choose to do what I told her to do to run faster, she would be running the same speed. It would be just another half marathon run having the same time. But she chose to have, and she chose to run faster. She chose. She doesn't have to choose to run faster. She could have followed her past coach, but she chose my method to run faster, and she thanked me for it. She didn't have to email me to thank me for it, but she did. So you see that all these aspects is all about free will. She chose my method to run faster because she was allowed to. She is allowed to choose not to run faster and follow the old coach, or she is allowed to run faster following me, her new coach. And she chose me because she wanted to try. What would happen if I followed David's direction? And what does it require? She even told me, I fully surrendered to your method. And that's why I apologize to you, because she fully surrendered to my method of running faster, and she ran faster. But she could also make a choice not to fully surrender to my method and run the same way. You know, how can you do the same things many times and expect the same outcome, the different outcome? You would do many things of the same way. If you expect a different outcome, then you must be insane. But in order for her to do something different, she has to make a new choice. And that's the beauty of God's free will. God's free will allows you to make a new choice to get you out of any suffering, to get you out of any underperformance. For her, she chose to accept my method, and she ran faster, and she made a good record. But that was her choice, to follow the new method. But if God didn't give her the free will, she would have been stuck doing the same thing. She couldn't run faster. If God didn't give her the free will to accept my method, to embrace it and to run faster, she would have run the same speed. That's the enigma of free will that my higher self wanted to learn. You see, you are the conscious you. You're the you. The higher self is the true you. Both you and your higher self have desires. I have my desires. My higher self has desires as well. And initially, I didn't want to coach her because of many of my experiences of the same thing. I coach someone. Initially, that person is happy, and then, oh, David, you're grateful. You're just, you have so much knowledge. Maybe you can help me improve my performance. As we go along the way, my experience told me that they don't want to make the effort. They find the effort difficult to overcome. That's usually their ego, the effort to overcome the ego so you can then make a new choice to perform better. That effort is, in my experience, most people don't want to make. They have this thing about, oh, I know everything, and if someone tells me something, oh, maybe that's how I can help me make a better performance or help me improve my life. But if you continue to align with your ego, how can you improve? Because you think you're the best, you don't need to improve, you're always right. If somebody tells you you're not right, then of course you just walk away because you don't like to be proven wrong. So how can you improve your situation and yourself if you're unwilling to accept that you can be wrong? So that was my experience. Like, I have the sense that this client of mine, she has shown this kind of attitude. And I was assuming that she is just one of those person that maybe, okay, I'll take you as a coach, but I don't want to be proven wrong. And then later on, I get accused of I'm a charlatan, I'm a fake coach, or David doesn't know anything. And then the person goes back to the old coach. That was my experience. That's why I was kind of refusing to take her as my student. But I have this sense in my heart, as though my presence says, hey, hold on, David. I want to experience this. I want to experience this condition of free will. Now, I have the experience of free will in this situation, but my higher self does not. But of course, after this experience, my higher self got the experience of the free will aspect. But before, my higher self wants to be involved in this situation, but I didn't want to get involved because I know better. Like, I know not to wrestle with a pig because you'll get dirty and the pig likes it. But I know that. But my higher self doesn't know that. My higher self doesn't know that if you wrestle with a pig, it will get dirty. And then the pig likes it. So that was the enigma of free will that my higher self didn't know. And it was encouraging me to go into this situation to learn that, to allow my higher self to learn that specific situation. And in this case, I was my higher self's guide or teacher because I have the experience. I know how to navigate in the situation, and my higher self just comes along for the ride. But in this situation, my higher self saw that the person, the spiritual being, my student, was allowed to make these choices because of what? Because of God's free will. It was actually a good lesson because it also surprised me too. But for my higher self, I can feel the sense of satisfaction. Say, I see it now. I see that she was resistant of your training. She was not willing to accept your training. But at the end of the day, she saw the reward of your training. Like my higher self was understanding this experience, that she saw the reward of this training and she took it. And whenever you are in the spiritual path, you will come to a point where nothing will get better. You're in the lowdown, everything just doesn't work. And you're in the situation where you're just stuck. And you have one solution dangling in front of you. It's all for you to take it. It will take you out of that misery, out of that suffering. And most of the time, we don't choose that. We are given that opportunity, but we don't choose that. But if you are connected with your higher self, you can actually stand back and then see who is doing the choosing. Is it you that sees the opportunity to learn that lesson, or is it your higher self? So connecting with your higher self is not like it's something that is bad to do. It is something that you need to connect to because your higher self has desires. And in the next 11 years, your higher self and yourself will learn different aspects of free will and then resolve the enigma of free will through this 11 years. And you can grow from that. Because you may be able to resolve many aspects of free will. Maybe you'll resolve everything, but if your higher self hasn't resolved one last enigma of free will, your higher self cannot return back to heaven. And then you have to come back again to earth. So every nudges and every desires that your higher self wants to fulfill, it will make that known to you. But most often than not, we are ignoring that message. Just like I was guided to be a nurse. That was my higher self that wants to experience being a nurse and resolving certain aspects of free will while I work as a nurse. And I also work as a childcare provider. Also, I can only learn that through experiencing being a childcare provider. But your higher self, you cannot help your higher self resolve the enigma of free will because it's not an intellectual understanding. It is an experience. So that, remember what Buddha says. When you see the Buddha nature in you, you see the Buddha nature in everything. Because everyone has free will. If you see yourself, your will is free. You also see other people's will as free as well. So you're not in that situation where you get angry, you get frustrated, why this person is doing some evil thing, why this innocent person is dying so soon, and so forth. You're not focusing on these superficial things and then you're getting off your divine plan. Because these are not part of your divine plan to try to correct situations of people doing evil things or to try to be angry with God for Him not providing any justice on innocent people. These things are there because people are exercising their free will. But you cannot see it until you see yourself internalizing that free will is free. Because as you internalize more of that will, the lessons, yourself, and then your higher self, and as your higher self internalize more and more of that free will, then it becomes more free to see and to understand and to finally let it go and move on to something else. So you're actually working with your higher self all the time when you're connected with your higher self. I like to think of it as my higher self as my employer. You see, if my higher self wants me to go this way or that way, to give me a framework of how I can fulfill my divine plan, everything will be added on to me because the higher self knows that, well, you need shelter, you need food, you need this, you need basic necessities like an income so that you can fulfill the desires of your higher self and yourself to resolve the enigma of free will. So when you look at everything on planet Earth, you look at it with a sense of peace and joy because you know it is, after all, everyone's free will to exercise. This is God's free will in action. It's the outplaying of free will. So you can have that sense of peace. So you can sort of like what Jesus was saying in the past, that the wolf can coexist with the lamb, and the little child can play with the cobra, with the hole in the cobra, and there is no fear. There's a coexistence with all things on earth because it is really, everything is the outplaying of free will. But you cannot really start to internalize it until you are connected fully with your higher self. And then you start to internalize with your higher self many parts of free will. So hopefully my talks can be helpful to you in embracing the Christ child within you and to embrace the birth of the Christ child in the next 11 years. Until then, I hope you have a great holiday, and I will be back next year with some more insights and some more thoughts. Until then, this is David saying goodbye.